Hey guys, tonight we begin with something a little different. On this warm July evening, we have a sleep story designed to calm your thoughts and ease you gently into deep rest. Subscribing helps us create more content like this, and it's completely free. And let me know in the comments where you tuning in from. These are the days when Emperor Antoninus Pius sits on the throne, and the empire has reached its greatest expanse in history. No, tonight we focus on the daily life of an ordinary Roman citizen. He's not a gladiator cheered by crowds, not a senator wielding power, not a wealthy merchant counting gold. He's simply human, one of Rome's more than 1 million inhabitants. And today, through his eyes, we'll see what it was like to live in the ancient world's greatest city. Time exists, but clocks don't. The Romans tell time by the sun's position, dividing daylight into 12 hours that stretch and shrink with the seasons. When the rooster calls begin to wake the city, echoing from courtyard to courtyard like a feathered alarm system, Marcus opens his eyes too. This morning is just like other mornings, yet somehow different. Marcus's home has no running water, no bathroom, not even a toilet. On the ground floor of his apartment building, what Romans call an insula, is a communis latrina, a public toilet shared by all the building's residents. This journey takes him through streets that are just beginning to wake up. Shop owners are opening their wooden shutters. Bakers are already at work, the smell of fresh bread mixing with the ever-present aroma of olive, oil, and incense. This is one of the most important parts of Roman life, and Marcus never skips it. Men must be strong and fit, because military service is every citizen's duty, and even in peacetime, life is physically demanding. Marcus spends 20 minutes exercising, working up a good sweat while discussing the day's plans with his neighbor Brutus, a carpenter whose hands are permanently stained with wood polish. The baths aren't just for washing, but for socializing, getting news, conducting business, and maintaining the complex web of relationships that keep Roman society functioning. This isn't just inconvenient, it's also somewhat dangerous. Rome's streets are dark and unsafe at night, filled with cutpurses, drunks, and worse. The vigils, night watchmen, do their best, but they can't be everywhere. Still, there's no other choice, and Marcus has learned to move quickly and quietly through the shadows. These luxuries are found only in the domus of the very wealthy, their grand villas with their marble floors and painted walls. Instead, Marcus pours some water from a large ceramic amphora into a smaller basin and washes his face and hands. This affordability is one of Rome's democratic aspects, a conscious policy to keep the masses content. Rich and poor, slave and free, senator and shopkeeper, everyone can use the same baths. Of course, the wealthy have private sections with warmer water and cleaner towels, but the basic service is open to all. It's one of the ways Rome keeps its diverse population from tearing itself apart. The water is cold, having been brought yesterday from the public fountain 3 streets away. Here he removes his tunic and hands it to an attendant, receiving a small linen towel in return. The room is already filling with men of all ages and stations, gray-bearded grandfathers, muscle-bound laborers, pale scribes, weathered soldiers on leave. Then he moves to the palestra, the exercise area, an open courtyard surrounded by columns where men wrestle, lift weights made of stone, and practice with wooden swords. In winter, this water sometimes has a thin skin of ice. In Rome, no day is truly the same as another. Not the senators in their marble halls, not the gladiators in their blood-soaked arenas, but the forgotten millions who made Rome truly great, the common people. Rome's summer days can be blazing hot, reaching temperatures that would make modern air conditioning a divine blessing. She's lighting the fire in their small brazier, the same ritual she's performed for 15 years of marriage. Roman women rise early because their days are long and endlessly full. The children, 10-year-old son Gaius and 7-year-old daughter Claudia, are still sleeping on their simple straw mattresses, their breathing steady and peaceful. Children are allowed to sleep until sunrise, one of the few mercies of Roman childhood. But nights are surprisingly cool, and homes don't have central heating. Only the wealthiest families can afford the hypocaust system, sophisticated underfloor heating that channels hot air through hollow walls and floors. Marcus's home isn't one of these engineering marvels. It's a simple brick house with 2 modest rooms, a small atrium open to the sky, and a kitchen barely large enough for one person. The Pax Romana, Romang peace, has brought stability to a world that stretches from the misty forests of Britain to the sun-baked deserts of Egypt, from the Rhine's cold waters to the Euphrates' ancient banks. And what time it is for you. It is always fascinating to see who is joining us from around the world. Throughout this video, you'll hear the soothing crackle of a cozy fireplace combined with soft-spoken storytelling. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Picture yourself at the height of the Roman Empire, in 150 AD, but tonight we won't discuss grand battles, political intrigue, or magnificent palaces. As the sun slowly sets over Rome's 7 hills, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold, we'll follow the story of a man named Marcus Quintus Fabius. This is a city where Greek marble stands beside Egyptian granite, where Germanic amber meets Indian silk, where the languages of 100 conquered peoples blend into a symphony of human civilization. This is Rome at its zenith, and Marcus is about to show us how ordinary people lived extraordinary lives in the shadow of empire. Marcus awakens in his modest home on the Aventine Hill, one of Rome's 7 sacred hills. The inside of his house is cold, despite the July warmth that will soon arrive. His wife Julia is already awake, her movements quiet and practiced in the pre-dawn darkness. First order of business is cleanliness, though the concept differs vastly from modern standards. To use the toilet, he needs to go outside. For real cleanliness, the kind that makes a man feel truly Roman, Marcus heads to the nearby Thermae, public baths. The entrance fee is remarkably cheap, 1 quadrans, a tiny bronze coin worth a fraction of his daily earnings. When he enters the baths, passing beneath an arch decorated with mosaics of Neptune and sea creatures, he first goes to the apoditerium, the changing room. In Rome, physical fitness is not vanity, but necessity. Men must be strong and fit, because military service is every citizen's duty, and even in peacetime, life is physically demanding. Marcus spends 20 minutes exercising, working up a good sweat, while discussing the day's plans with his neighbor Brutus, a carpenter whose hands are permanently stained with wood polish. After some exercise, he enters the sudatorium, the sweat room. This is like a modern sauna, but much hotter and more humid, filled with steam that rises from heated stones. But Marcus has been doing this for years, and he slides into the water with barely a wince. Here he chats with other men, their voices echoing off the vaulted ceiling, decorated with scenes of gods and heroes. The way he handled his net and trident, like watching a god of war. Everyone's discussing the emperor's new tax policies, the situation on the Germanic frontier, the price of grain from Egypt. Julia has prepared breakfast while he was gone, and the children are now stirring. The wealthy can drink vinum mulsum, honeyed wine that costs more than Marcus earns in a week, but middle-class families like his make do with posca. Actually, this is quite smart, because Rome's water isn't always clean, despite the magnificent aqueducts that bring it from distant mountains, and vinegar kills many of the bacteria that cause illness. Rome's streets in the morning hours are assault on the senses, wonderful and overwhelming at the same time. People from every corner of the known world live here, drawn by opportunity, driven by conquest, or brought in chains that have since been broken. Blonde Germanic slaves carry water jars on their shoulders. Dark-skinned Egyptian merchants argue over spice prices. Black Nubian soldiers march in formation toward the city gates, Exotic Indian travelers in silk robes examine Roman goods with calculating eyes. People of every color, speaking every language, practicing every trade walk Rome's streets in an endless, flowing river of humanity. Sounds come from everywhere. Street vendors shouting their wares in Latin mixed with Greek and a dozen barbarian tongues. This comes from the same source that supplies the imperial household, he says, which may or may not be true, but sounds impressive. This is the opposite of the Palatine Hill, where emperors and senators live in marble splendor. Marcus sells various goods that represent the vast reach of Roman commerce. Indian spices that traveled thousands of miles by ship and caravan. Chinese silk that passed through dozens of hands to reach Rome. Arab perfumes distilled from desert flowers. Spanish olive oil pressed from trees planted by Phoenicians. Gallic wine from vineyards tended by recently conquered Celts. Rome's trade network is so extensive that goods from everywhere in the known world can be found on Roman shelves. He buys these goods wholesale from large merchants who maintain warehouses near the Tiber, then sells them retail to anyone with coin to spend. Here, narrow streets barely wide enough for two people to pass wind between tall apartment buildings that lean together like old friends sharing secrets. She's accompanied by her personal slave, Thrax, a young Germanic man who carries her purchases and protects her from the crowds. She's looking for a new perfume, something suitable for an upcoming banquet where she needs to impress her husband's political allies. The constant noise of commerce, argument, celebration, and life fills the air from dawn to dusk. But it's a perfect location for trade because every type of person passes through here. Slaves running errands, soldiers on leave, housewives shopping, tourists gawking. Cartwheels grinding and clattering on stone pavement, worn smooth by centuries of traffic. People calling to friends, arguing, laughing, crying. The air is filled with the sounds of a city of 1 million people, all trying to make a living. Yentaculum, the morning meal, is very simple in Rome, almost Spartan by modern standards. Today she'll go to the Forum Romanum, the great marketplace that is the beating heart of the empire, to do some shopping and meet with neighboring women. These social networks are crucial for survival. Information about which merchants are honest, which foods are fresh, which neighborhoods are safe. The children will come with her because Roman children spend most of their time with their mothers, learning by observation and imitation. Some bread, still warm from the local baker. Olive oil from the family small store. A bit of cheese made from goat's milk. Maybe a few figs or dates if they can afford them. The bread is panis quadratus, 4-sectioned bread, special Roman loaves marked with an X to make breaking easier. These breads are baked in stake-run ovens and distributed free to Roman citizens as part of the bread dole. This system, called the annona, is the foundation of Rome as social policy and one of the ways the emperors keep the urban masses from rioting. Political discussion in Rome can be dangerous. The wrong words repeated to the wrong person can lead to exile or worse. But the relaxing atmosphere of the baths encourages people to speak more openly than they would elsewhere. But I think the games are getting too expensive. The emperor keeps importing more exotic animals, and someone has to pay for it. The heat is almost unbearable at first, but Marcus is used to it. Romans believe sweating purges the body of illness and evil humors. After sweating for what feels like an eternity, but is probably only minutes, he moves to the caldarium, the hot pool. The water is very hot, almost burning, heated by the same hypocaust system that warms the wealthy homes he'll never afford. Did you see yesterday's games at the Colosseum? Asks his neighbor Lucius, a wine merchant with a round belly and laugh lines around his eyes. Yes, that Thracian gladiator was incredible, Marcus replies, settling deeper into the hot water. The conversation turns to politics, as it always does. After the hot bath, he moves to the tepidarum, the warm room, where his body adjusts to lukewarm water, heated to just above body temperature. This transition is gradual and pleasant. giving him time to think about the day ahead. Finally, he finishes in the frigidarium, the cold pool, where water is kept deliberately icy. This transition from hot to cold gets the blood circulation moving vigorously and is considered very healthy by Roman physicians. The shock is intense but brief, and he emerges feeling alert and alive. When he returns home, the sun has climbed higher and the city is fully awake. For drink, he has posca, vinegared water mixed with herbs. Coffee isn't known yet, nor is tea. During breakfast, Julia explains the day's plans in her calm, methodical way. Marcus finishes his simple meal and leaves home for work, stepping out into streets that are now fully alive with activity. Rome is perhaps the most cosmopolitan city that has ever existed. Marcus's shop is located in the Subura district, a dense neighborhood that exemplifies both the vitality and chaos of urban Roman life. In his shop, which is barely larger than a modern closet, his first customer of the day is Domitia, a wealthy woman with elaborate hair and expensive jewelry. Marcus shows her rose oil from Arabia, contained in a small glass vial that catches the morning light. "This looks very expensive," says Domitia, examining the vial with practiced skepticism. "Quality, madam," Marcus replies smoothly. "This oil is made from roses that bloom only in the mountains of Arabia, picked at dawn when the fragrance is strongest. Each drop is worth its weight in silver." The bargaining begins, a ritual as old as commerce itself. They discuss the weather, the latest chariot races, the quality of this year's wine harvest, gradually circling back to the business at hand. Finally, after 20 minutes of polite verbal combat, Domitia buys the perfume for exactly half the price Marcus originally asked, which was exactly what he expected to receive. In Rome, no one accepts the first price offered. It would be considered insulting to both buyer and seller. Everything is subject to negotiation, and the process can take anywhere from minutes to hours. And seasoned with herbs, along with fresh bread still warm from the oven. There's Lucius the fish seller, whose hands permanently smell of the sea. Gaius the barber, who knows everyone's secrets because people talk while getting shaved. They're bringing in some new fighters from the schools in Capua. Quintus the cart driver, whose wagon brings goods from the port. Sextus the scribe, who writes letters for those who can't read, and they're not afraid to die. That counts for something in the arena. Everyone talks about their own business, sharing information about prices, customers, and opportunities. But the main topic of conversation is always the gladiator games. He also requests vinum, wine, but like all civilized Romans, he asks for it to be mixed with water. These hours typically bring more customers, because the morning is when people handle personal business, visiting the baths, making social calls, conducting family affairs. The afternoon is for commerce. Drinking wine undiluted is considered the behavior of barbarians, drunkards, and people with no self-control. He offers a smaller quantity of premium pepper, mixed with a larger amount of a similar but less expensive spice from Asia Minor. Phoenix examines the mixture carefully, smells it, even tastes a few grains. Satisfied, he makes the purchase and hurries away to complete his long list of errands. He's shopping for spices needed for an elaborate dinner his master is hosting for political allies. Marcus shows him black pepper, the most precious spice in his shop, literally worth its weight in silver in Rome. This pepper comes from India, after an incredible journey. Loaded onto ships in distant ports, transported across dangerous seas, carried by caravan through deserts and mountains, passing through dozens of hands before reaching Roman shops. The price reflects this complex supply chain. They're taller, stronger, and they fight with those curved swords that can cut through armor. But he also needs to watch expenses. The senator's election campaign has been costly. The mixture also makes the wine safer, as fermentation kills many dangerous bacteria. He can't afford to lose money on games, no matter how exciting they might be. The coins he earns from his shop are already stretched thin, covering his family's needs. food, rent, clothing, the occasional small luxury that makes life bearable. Every sestertius must be spent carefully. This is a common practice throughout the empire during summer months. The game involves moving pieces across a grid, trying to capture enemy pieces while protecting your own. Military tactics in miniature. It's considered excellent training for the mind, helping develop the kind of strategic thinking that made Rome master of the world. During the hottest hours, when the sun turns the streets into furnaces, most shops close and people seek shelter. Even slaves are often given a break during these hours, though their masters would never admit to showing such consideration. This isn't just economic necessity. It's a social ritual where people get to know each other, exchange gossip, form relationships that might prove valuable later. A good merchant knows that today's difficult customer might become tomorrow's best friend. The negotiation continues with Demetia, pointing out supposed flaws in the merchandise, while Marcus extols its virtues, both of them enjoying the performance. By midday, the sun is blazing down with typical Mediterranean intensity. Rome's summers can be brutally hot, with temperatures that would be dangerous without modern cooling systems. And shops have no ventilation beyond their open fronts. Marcus frequently steps outside to rest in whatever shade he can find, joining other shopkeepers who have learned to adapt their rhythms to the climate. At lunchtime, following Roman custom, he closes the shop for prondum, the midday meal and rest period. He walks to a nearby tavern, one of hundreds scattered throughout the Subura. These establishments, called tabernae, are the true heart of Roman social life. Here people from all walks of life come together to eat, drink wine, play dice games, conduct business, share gossip, and sometimes settle disputes with their fists. The wealthy have their exclusive dinner parties, but the tabernae are where real Roman culture lives and breathes. The tavern is already crowded with the lunch crowd. Marcus orders a bowl of lentil soup, thick with vegetables. The tavern is filled with familiar faces, people Marcus has known for years. Next week, the Nubians will fight the Gauls, says Lucius excitedly, his eyes bright with anticipation. I'm betting on the Nubians, adds Gaius with the confidence of a man who's lost many such bets. But the Gauls are clever, counters Quintus. They know how to use their shields. Marcus listens, but doesn't get too involved in the betting discussion. After eating, they gather around a wooden table scarred by years of use to play Larshunkuli, a strategy board game that's enormously popular throughout the empire. In the afternoon, refreshed by food and rest, Marcus returns to his shop as the heat begins to subside slightly. His first customer is a household slave named Phoenix, a Syrian purchased by a wealthy family to manage their domestic affairs. My master needs enough for 50 guests, Phoenix explains in accented Latin. Marcus nods understandingly. Roman politics is expensive, requiring constant entertainment of allies, bribes for votes, and grand gestures to impress the public. He offers a smaller quantity of premium pepper, mixed with a larger amount of a similar, but less expensive spice from Asia Minor. Phoenix examines the mixture carefully, smells it, even tastes a few grains. He's been assigned to a legion heading to Britannia, that mysterious island at the edge of the world where blue-painted barbarians resist Roman rule. He needs supplies for the long journey and the campaign ahead. That the druids can call down lightning and the warriors fight naked in winter snow? Satisfied, he makes the purchase and hurries away to complete his long list of errands. The legion has never failed, boy. Roman discipline defeats barbarian fury every time. Despite his poverty, he carries himself with dignity. He is writing a book about ethics and needs ink for his work. Marcus shows him the finest black ink available, made from soot and tree gum in Egypt. In Rome, commerce is deeply social, a way of building and maintaining the complex web of relationships that holds society together. Rome's evenings are magical times when the oppressive heat of the day gives way to cooling breezes from the Mediterranean. He hurries home because the Senate dinner that his wife Julia has been preparing all afternoon is waiting. This isn't just food. It's the centerpiece of Roman family life. The time when everyone comes together to share not just a meal, but the experiences of the day. The streets come alive with different sounds now. Street musicians playing lyres and flutes, singing voices drifting from taverns, children playing games in whatever open spaces they can find. The menu reflects both the family as modest means and the abundance of the Roman market. Lentil soup thick with vegetables and seasoned, with herbs from their small garden. Today's pork was butchered this morning and is fresh and flavorful. The bread is still warm, the soup is rich and satisfying, and the olive relish adds a burst of Mediterranean flavor that reminds Marcus why he loves the city despite its hardships. Fresh bread from the neighborhood baker, a small portion of pork a rare treat that Marcus purchased to celebrate a particularly good day of sales, and olive relish made from olives, garlic, and herbs. People exchange information about family, politics, business opportunities, and social events. Roman girls learn early that their futures will revolve around managing households and raising children, but that doesn't make childhood less precious. Her eyes sparkle as she explains the elaborate games she and her friends invented, complete with marriages, festivals, and traumatic storylines worthy of the theater. A successful merchant isn't just someone who sells good products at fair prices, but someone who becomes a trusted part of the community network. Gaius, his 10-year-old son, immediately begins reciting a new Latin poem he memorized at school, a heroic tale about Aeneas founding Rome after fleeing the burning ruins of Troy. His pronunciation is careful and precise, the result of hours of practice with his teacher. Education is expensive, but Marcus considers it essential. In Rome, literacy can lift a family from poverty to prosperity. This ink writes smoothly on papyrus and parchment, and if properly made, it won't fade for decades. Keep your sword sharp and your shield high, and you'll return with tales that will impress girls for the rest of your life. He also provides dried fruits, figs, dates, and grapes that will provide essential nutrition during long marches when fresh food is unavailable. Roman soldiers must carry much of their own supplies, and experienced veterans know that proper equipment can mean the difference between life and death. Next comes a young soldier named Cassius, barely 18 and about to depart for his first military campaign. Marcus sells him a waterproof leather bag made from goat hide, treated with oils to repel rain and river water. Is it true what they say about Britannia? Cassius asks nervously. Marcus, who has never been further from Rome than the nearby coast, nevertheless offers what reassurance he can. As evening approaches, Marcus's final customer is the Sallus, an elderly Greek philosopher with a wild white beard and threadbare cloak. Wisdom is expensive, the Sallus observes with a rueful smile, counting out his coins carefully. But ignorance costs more, Marcus replies, surprising himself with this philosophical observation. Each customer interaction is more than a simple transaction. When the sun begins to sink toward the western hills, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple, Marcus closes his shop and begins the walk home. But Marcus doesn't linger to enjoy the evening entertainment. When he arrives at his modest home, the children greet him with enthusiasm that warms his heart more than any profit from commerce. Claudia, his 7-year-old daughter, is more interested in showing off a small doll she and her friends made from scraps of cloth and wood. Julia has prepared the evening meal in their triclinium, the dining room, though calling it a room is generous given its size. Meat appears on their table only once or twice a week because it's expensive, but when it does, it's cause for celebration.
During the meal, everyone shares stories of their day. This is unjust conversation. It's how Roman families maintain their bonds and pass information between generations. Julia talks about her morning trip to the Forum Romanum, describing the new fabrics she saw from distant provinces, the gossip she heard about political appointments, and the wedding preparations of their neighbor Livia. She helped her mother with cooking today, learning to judge when bread is properly baked and how to season soup to perfection. She also spent time with Julia's loom, learning the basics of weaving that will be essential for managing a household. Roman girls may have fewer formal educational opportunities than boys, but they receive intensive practical training. Keep us safe from disease and misfortune, grant us prosperity in our endeavors, and protect us from the malice of enemies. It's a simple prayer, but deeply felt. Roman women maintain extensive social networks that are crucial for family survival and advancement. This space, open to the sky through a rectangular opening called the compluvium, serves as the heart of Roman domestic life. Here they can see the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky, and cool evening breezes provide relief from the day's heat. In Rome, the emperor is not just a political leader but a god, and daily acknowledgement of his divine status is expected from every citizen. Roman children learn religious observance from their earliest years, understanding that the favor of the gods is essential for survival and success. The rituals teach them discipline, respect for tradition, and their place in the cosmic order. In Rome, without electricity or affordable artificial lighting, most people follow the rhythm of the sun. Their sleeping quarters are in the cubicula, small bedrooms barely large enough for simple mattresses stuffed with straw and wool. This is when they discuss family matters, finances, the children's education, plans for improving their modest home, dreams of perhaps moving to a better neighborhood someday. These beds aren't luxurious by any standard, but they're warm, dry, and comfortable enough for children who've spent their day running through Roman streets. It would make a wonderful dress for festival days, but it costs more than Marcus earns in a month. He promises that if business continues to improve, perhaps next year they might afford such a luxury. Olive oil lamps and candles are expensive, so only the wealthy can afford to extend their day much beyond sunset. Most Roman families retire shortly after the last light fades from the western sky. They gather in front of the lararium, the household shrine located in a corner of the atrium. This small wooden cabinet contains painted figures of the household gods, the Lares, who protect the family, and the Pinides, who guard the food stores, the star of the goddess of love. Sailors use it for navigation, and priests use it to determine the proper times for festivals. Romans are keen astronomers, and he can identify most of the major star patterns. There's Ursa Major, the Great Bear, circling eternally around the North Star. There's Orion the Hunter, rising in the east. And brightest of all is Venus, the evening star, sacred to the goddess of love and beauty. Every Roman family, from the poorest tenant to the emperor himself, maintains such a shrine. Gaius shares what his teacher told them about Roman history. Tales of the Seven Kings, the founding of the Republic, the conquest of the Mediterranean world. He places a small piece of bread and pours a few drops of wine on the shrine's tiny altar, while speaking the traditional prayer that his father taught him and his father's father taught before that. Roman education emphasizes patriotism and civic duty, teaching children that they are part of something greater than themselves. Roman religion isn't separate from daily life. It permeates everything, from the names of the days to the timing of business transactions. The gods aren't distant figures, but active participants in human affairs, requiring constant attention and respect. The boy's eyes shine as he describes the heroic deeds of Roman generals and the wisdom of Roman law. Claudia, despite her young age, is already learning the domestic skills she'll need as an adult. After dinner, as shadows lengthen and the first stars appear in the darkening sky, the family performs one of the most important rituals of Roman domestic life. Marcus, as head of the household, performs the daily offering ritual that has been practiced by Roman families for centuries. Larry's familiars, watch over this house and all who dwell within it, he says solemnly. Protect our emperor, Julia adds, because failing to include the ruler in daily prayers can be considered treasonous. The children also participate, each saying their own small prayers. After the household religious duties are completed, the family moves to the atrium, the central courtyard of their home. Marcus looks up at the constellations that are just becoming visible. Look, father, that bright star. What is it? Asks Gaius, following his father's gaze upward. That's Venus, Marcus explains patiently. This leads to a discussion of mythology and astronomy that's both educational and entertaining. As full darkness settles over the city, the family begins preparing for bed. The children go to bed first, after receiving their parents' blessing, and saying their own prayers to the household gods. Marcus and Julius sit together a while longer in the atrium, enjoying these quiet moments when the day's work is done and tomorrow's challenges haven't yet arrived. Julia tells Marcus about a beautiful piece of silk she saw in the forum, imported from the mysterious land of Syrica, far beyond the eastern borders of the empire.
It would make a wonderful dress for festival days, but it costs more than Marcus earns in a month. He promises that if business continues to improve, perhaps next year they might afford such a luxury. They also discuss more practical matters. Gaius will soon need new sandals. Claudia is outgrowing her tunic. The roof needs repair before the autumn rains begin. Through their window, which is covered with a wooden shutter rather than glass, come the distinctive sounds of Roman nightlife. These conversations aren't depressing but hopeful, evidence of a family working together toward a better future. Finally, they too retire to their bedroom, a small but private space that represents their sanctuary from the chaos of urban life. Rome's taverns stay open late, and there's always someone celebrating something. A successful business deal, a son's safe return from military service, a daughter's engagement, or simply the fact that they survived another day in the world's greatest city. Rome is never completely silent. The vigil's night watchmen patrol the streets, their calls of omnia bene. The gods willing, business will be profitable, the family will stay healthy, and will take another small step toward prosperity. During daylight hours, wheeled traffic is banned from most Roman streets to reduce congestion, so merchants and suppliers do much of their transport at night. She's had a long day managing the household, caring for the children, and handling the countless small tasks that keep a Roman family functioning. Gaius probably dreams of heroic adventures and great deeds, while Claudia dreams of dolls and friends and the simple pleasures of childhood. Their sleep is the deep, untroubled rest of young people who feel safe and loved. Her sleep is well-earned, the rest of someone who has fulfilled her duties with skill and devotion. Marcus Quintus Fabius sleeps peacefully, surrounded by his family, protected by his gods, secure in his place in the greatest city the world has ever known. His family is healthy, his business is stable, and the gods seem favorable. And rest well, you who have joined us on this journey through time. May your own dreams be filled with the simple pleasures and quiet victories that made life worth living, and as now, in the eternal city and beyond. These sounds don't disturb him, but rather comfort him. But for now, there is only sleep and dreams, and the quiet satisfaction of a day well lived. They're the sounds of civilization, of order, of a city that works. They're the sounds of Rome itself, breathing quietly in the darkness. For a Roman citizen of modest means, these are considerable blessings. The sound is oddly comforting, evidence that the great machine of Roman commerce never stops working. All is well, echoing from neighborhood to neighborhood. He'll wake before dawn, visit the baths, tend his shop, serve his customers, return to his family. It's a simple life, but it's his life, chosen and built through years of steady effort. In a world where most people have no choice at all, this is a kind of freedom. These reassuring voices let citizens know that order is being maintained, and that the imperial peace extends even into the darkest hours. Occasionally, they hear the rumble of wagon wheels on stone pavement. These sounds of urban wildlife remind them that even in the heart of civilization, nature persists in its own forms. Tonight Jupiter is particularly bright, hanging like a brilliant jewel in the constellation Virgo. The brightness of Jupiter, king of the gods, is considered an especially good omen for the future. From distant neighborhoods come faint sounds of music and celebration. Sometimes they hear cats fighting in the alleys, or dogs barking warnings at unknown threats. Marcus lies awake for a few minutes, watching the stars through their small window. Tomorrow will be a good day, he thinks to himself. Beside him, Julia's breathing has already settled into the steady rhythm of sleep. In the next room, the children are also sleeping peacefully. Marcus closes his eyes and reviews the day that's ending. It was challenging, like every day in Rome, but also satisfying. The night sounds of the eternal city continue around him. Watchmen calling, wheels rolling, distant music playing, cats prowling. As sleep begins to claim him, Marcus thinks about tomorrow. And so ends an ordinary day in ancient Rome, in the life of an ordinary man who was part of something extraordinary. The rhythm of his breathing slows and deepens. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new opportunities, new small adventures in the endless drama of Roman life. Rest well, Marcus. Rest well, ancient Rome. Sweet dreams.